Good morning, and thanks for joining me on Awareness Today. Today, I'm joined by the Richland Library Fall 2020 Artist in Residence, Marion Rush, although you probably know him as Crush, maybe the unofficial historian of all things that happen in Columbia. You've probably seen him out and about around town, capturing our community through the lens of his camera. And according to the library, during his residency, Crush is serving as a liaison between the library and the local arts community. So let's welcome him in today. Good morning, Crush. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Leland. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. So this is quite an honor you have received here. Tell us about this opportunity and how you came to be selected as the artist in residence at the Richland Library.
Absolutely. So I've always had, high praises for Richland Library, always been a fan. The Artist in Residence program is an opportunity for artists to really engage and connect with the community while being backed by Richland Library. Richland Library has so many things to offer artists. They have maker spaces, there's guides, there's all different type of talkbacks, so much to enrich the artists of the city. And what the Artist in Residence does is it pulls artists from the community and allows them to work hand in hand with the Richland Library to make better dialogue, to see if there's areas that Richland Library can improve on and connecting to the artist scene, and to also facilitate some true change within our community. The Artist in Residence program, like I said, allows for the artists, we get to showcase our work, to really just explain where there is a disconnect or where there's room for improvement in regards to a public service like Richland Library, and helping us, the artists that's actually out in the field. So it was a process that I had to submit some information for. My name was in a hat. It had to be reviewed. There was, a couple other great artists, and fortunately, I was chosen, given this time and what I'm covering and what 2020 has had for us so far. So, yeah.
You'll be in this role until mid-December. What are some of your most favorite, I guess, projects or accomplishments so far?
Well, so far, because my artist in residence stay is virtual, we've had some really amazing talkbacks with people community. We had the Artists Helping Artists meeting, which is a bi-weekly meeting that allows for us, artists of all types to just come in and talk about what we're going through, talk about any type of experiences that they're having, talk about what they work on, and sometimes, just talk to be a friend. Being artists, there's a huge chance that we're empaths, and empaths just need to talk sometimes. You just need to let it go. Another big thing that was really really good is we had a teen meeting. I met with the teens for a little bit, and I talked to them about what was going on. It was I dropped in a game night, and it ended up being like a 30-minute, 40-minute, just like fun fest, because I was able to connect with the teens. We were talking about video games, talking about art, and just having a ball. And another thing too that I'm really working on is a artist directory. That's what I want to be my my lasting impression, is that we put together artist directory, and it's not just a standard artist directory that just covers like music and painting, but it covers a plethora of all different disciplines of art, which is what's needed. A lot of people don't really look at a lot of things that are artistic expressions as art, like masonry, like custom ceramic tile, pottery, things of that nature. So we just really want to have a directory that features all of Columbia's Richland's talent that people can access from a public entity.
Given the state of our world right now, whether it's the pandemic or conversations around social issues, when it comes down to our local community here in the Midlands of South Carolina, tell me why you were the right person for this opportunity at this particular time.
From what I hear, the library was looking for somebody that could really connect with the movement and what's going on right now from a social standpoint. Obviously, the Black Lives Matter movement has been a very strong proponent of 2020. It's been in the forefront, and we've actually seen some change in 2020. Whereas, there's been instances in the past that things happen. We have a little bubble, a little fizz for 2 weeks, and then things go back to normal. So being that I've covered a lot of things political, a lot of things that are protests and rallies and marches, I think that I was, the perfect candidate to, given what they were trying to feature and what they were really trying to build up on. They're really, really big into connecting minority artists, and getting us the representation that we need and deserve in the city. So like I'm right along with that. I think that's why I was a great choice. And I already have a lot of connections and a lot of relationships in the community as well. So I think that helped push the needle in my direction.
So when you think about art, everything that goes into that, all the different kinds of art for you, photography specifically, why is that, or how is that so influential in our lives? It really has the ability to just like shape us and shape conversations. How does it have that power?
Well, art, if you go back and look through time, art has been the catalyst of direct change. You look at all the historic art movements in the black communities, the Renaissance, the Black Art movement. Then you go back and look at all the different art movements across seas in Europe. Art has always been the catalyst for lasting change because it literally makes people think out of the box. Our whole existence, based on all the technological principles that we have, all the architectural principles we have, it all started with a creative desire to have something better than what we had at the time. So you take in consideration, we're sitting here looking at screens, laptops, phones, but you 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, these were things that you only saw in sci-fi movies. So that was somebody's creativity, somebody's abstract thought thinking, hey, look, what if there was this device that we could FaceTime each other through? Or what if there was this device that we could send these digital messages through? That's all artistic expression, thinking out of what the norm is. And that alone is the principle that has propelled humans far beyond any other species on this planet because we have that abstract thinking. We have that imagination, if you will, that allows for us to just really get ourselves out of whatever we're in. And sometimes you think about art, you think about all the influential musicians alone, Bob Marley, Michael Jackson, Prince. You think about all these people that have really, in a time that it was very tumultuous, when people were fighting, black and white, didn't really know. But then you have this music that just brings everybody together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's
That is the power of art.
truly
Now,
a
in regards
wonderful
to
thing.
photography,
Let me stop you for time
photography,
right there. We'll be right
yeah,
back.
sure, yeah, yeah,
A quick break.
yeah,
All right,
yeah, yeah,
here
yeah,
on
no problem.
Awareness. We'll be right back. Welcome back this morning, joined by Marion Crush Rush, the 2020 Fall Artist in Residence at the Richland Library. Like the rest of us, Crush, you've had quite a year, so let's kind of take it back to the beginning of the year, January 2020. All of us were so unsuspecting of what was to come. But there was a crowded Democratic field for president, and all those candidates descended on South Carolina. So, what do you remember about that day and capturing kind of all of these high profile national figures?
King Day at the Dome, I imagine. So the first thing I remember is this is something that is always true. Everybody would tell you, King Day at the Dome is always the coldest day in Columbia. So that's the first thing that I remember is that it was just so cold. Second of all, it just being such a critical election year, seeing all of the candidates, seeing the camaraderie that the candidates have, walking arm in arm, no matter how they may think, no matter what they feel is best for the country. Everybody was standing arm in arm. The unity that we need and love to see between not just our Democratic candidates, but any candidates, no matter what side of the spectrum on. You want to see that unity because in the end, it just benefits us as the constituents. If that there's some type of decency between candidates, so that was just a great feeling. And just on top of that, seeing the sheer numbers that came out for King Day at the Dome, that's always a great thing to see. You see black people, you see white people, Hispanic people, Asian people, everybody coming together for one unified cause, and that's just powerful. You always want to see that as a documentarian, and it just warms your heart and makes you feel really, really good in that moment in time.
At that time, did you maybe
Yes.
foresee a president-elect Joe Biden, at this point of the year back then, or who stuck out to you at that time?
Well, so at that time, it was still, I wouldn't say early, but it was still everybody was still finding their basis about what they wanted to do, how they wanted to handle things. At that time, I was still playing the field, absolutely still playing the field. Choosing who I wanted to kind of like pay more attention to in time. But at that time, I didn't have anyone identified, and I can't say that I saw Joe Biden. I can't say, but I did. I will say that the charisma, was there, and there were a lot of candidates, Leland. There
There
were
were a lot.
there were a lot of
It was
candidates.
a
It was a lot to
crowded
take in, and I
field.
was I was documenting as well. So
In those moments, are you just taking pictures? Do you realize kind of the gravity of what you're doing and the weight it could hold later?
Oh, absolutely. So in that moment, it's always something I'm very cognizant about in that time. I wanted to really catch the ebb and flow of people and how they operated, the candidates themselves. It gives an opportunity to really look at the person outside of the politics.
Hmm.
I don't think a lot of people realize the importance of looking at someone outside of what they're saying in front of cameras. You got to look at everything. You can look at body language. You can see if it's genuine, see where it comes from, how they operate with people. And to me, that's very important for picking someone for the highest position.
Let's talk about the pandemic. In the beginning of this, earlier this year, a lot of people were resistant to mask wearing,
Yes.
and they kind of thought the requirements the government was asking was just too much to
Hmm.
ask of the people. And you captured some of those people as they had rallies and gathered together.
Yes.
What were you thinking as you kind of made your way to cover those things, and certainly once you got there? And I guess what influenced some of the pictures
Mhm.
that you took?
Well, first off, the first thing that was going through my mind, and it still goes through my mind because, as you know, we still have that pushback, is that it has become so political. Um, a pandemic becoming political is is probably the worst thing that can happen. I'm big on science. I'm big on a science driven dialogue. I've always been that way. So seeing that really made me sad because I know where it happened. It happened because of the political polarization that is happening in America. If that political standpoints wasn't there, would I think that these people have masks on? Absolutely. I think that we would be thinking science all the way through. So that was really disheartening. Um, because I feel like people have been getting played um, because of that polarization, and that makes me sad. I'm a people person, and ultimately, it just puts everybody in danger, and then it prolongs the lockdown and the quarantine because we're constantly fighting. It's really heartbreaking, but it's their right.
Mhm.
It's their right.
Certainly. George Floyd protests and Black Lives Matter demonstrations this year. You got some, took some pictures of that. We had lots of activity here in Columbia,
Yes, yes.
across the state, across the whole world, to be quite honest. Your personal thoughts on that, and you have a pretty good audience here in our region. So, what do you think your pictures contributed to that conversation here at home?
Well, a lot of people don't realize that South Carolina has constantly and consistently been a battleground for civil rights for a long time, decades on end. As you walk downtown Columbia, you see the markers that signify historical areas that civil rights movements happen. But you forward back to 2020. If you go back and look at some of the pictures from the 60s, the 50s, you look at all those movements and you go back and look into the photos that taken in 2020, you'll realize that a lot of things have changed, but it's still very much the same. And I think that that was the power that I really wanted to capture in my photos. I wanted to people to see that we are still in the midst of dealing with racism, dealing with white supremacy, dealing with all different type of ills in America that haven't really ever truly been resolved. We've put a lot of band-aids on what's going on in America, but we never ever truly fix the root cause. And so I wanted my photos to really depict on the movement that was happening. And I also wanted them to actually kind of mimic what I had seen before. So that's why it was very important for me to capture things in a way that reminded people of the photo. So the older generations can see, hey, look, this we still have work to do. Don't let these extra rights that we have, don't let this comfort level of comfort that we have make us think that we have reached our destination
Hmm.
because we still have a lot of work to do.
You captured it
Right.
all very well in some of your pictures. You've been seeing some as they scroll across the screen here. You can always head to Crush's Facebook or his Instagram to see more of these photos on topics we talked about today, or really anything else. If it happened in Columbia, Crush was probably there.
Right.
All
Yeah.
right, another quick break here this morning. We'll be right back. Welcome back this morning. Of course, at this stage of the year, we now have a President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. But what we don't have is a concession from the current president, Donald Trump, and a proper transition of power in place. And I think everyone knows why that is. So, and on Election Day, on that Saturday morning when a lot of the networks, including the AP, was able to call the race for Joe Biden based on information at that time, there was a demonstration in downtown Columbia at the State House. Supporters of President Trump kind of came out. They had microphones and they were, getting their message out to their supporters. There were flags. A lot was going on. You captured that as well. You were there. Tell us about kind of the mood that day. And do you really feel like you got the pictures you wanted? Were you able to kind of really capture the feelings and the emotions of the people that were there in light of the election results?
Absolutely. The mood of it was, I wouldn't say that I was frustrated, but in a sense, when you question democracy, when you question the one thing that makes America America, it really does make you feel a level of gloom. Capturing people in their true elements, I mean, they truly feel as if there was some type of scam, there was some type of fraud to happen. So I definitely feel like I captured the mood of the individuals that were out there. I've been a part of protests and rallies, and having the right is something that I'm very appreciative of. So, I'm glad that they were also extended that same right. I do, however, feel that maybe we should identify with the response from the city and the differences between a march that would be seen as from the left compared to a march that's seen from the right. The response was definitely different, and that's something that I always see. And maybe we can possibly look at that. Why that is. Why when we have a Black Lives Matter movement, why are there snipers posted up? Why are there sled all over the place? In APVs, why is that a thing? But when there's a march or a rally that is you quote quote right leaning, why isn't that why isn't that the case? Why is it so different? Why is there political polarization from a city standpoint? And I think that's something that we can definitely work on and identify some areas of improvement.
So when your time as artist in residence is complete, again, you were, selected for this in mid-October, early October, somewhere in there,
That's correct.
and you'll be in the position until mid-December. So when your time is up, what do you want people to know about you and, more importantly, your work that they may not have known before?
Well, I want people to know that I am here. I'm here for open dialogue. I'm always willing to have the conversation. I'm always willing to help where I can. And in regards to my work, I just want people to realize that us photojournalists, us journalists in general, we're just out here trying to make a living, trying to do what we love, and give people information that's necessary. Everything that we do, that you do, I do, all of our colleagues do is a very necessary part of the democracy in America. And the only way that we can truly safeguard ourselves from being taken advantage of is to have the knowledge. So I want people to know and understand the importance of journalism, photojournalism, documentarianship, and I want people to know that we are not their enemies. I want my work to really, really touch people and connect people and make people have dialogue, have these hard conversations, because these hard conversations are necessary 100% of the time.
So everything you do, isn't you're there for whatever event's happening wherever it's happening, but it's not always political or it's not always
Right.
serious. So real quickly, tell us about some of the fun stuff that you've been able to do and why you enjoy this so much. And real quickly,
Uh,
kind of how you got into photography and got your business going.
yes. Well, my story is very funny and quick. I actually got into photography a couple decades ago. There was this game on Nintendo 64 named Pokemon Snap, and I absolutely loved the game. It was just something that I played all the time, and I was like, wait a minute, I can actually do this in real life. I don't have to take pictures of a Pokemon in a video game. And that's what was the catalyst for me really falling in love with photography. I also watched my great grandmother go through dementia and watched her forget things and watched her from being a sharp woman to, you know, a shell of herself. And, you know, the camera allowed for me to record memories and moments in time in case I ever get to the point where I was that way, a dementia or Alzheimer's, and I would have memories to look back on, and my family would have memories to look back on. So that was really a huge point for me. The fun things, you know, I've covered all different types of festivals. I've covered community events. I've covered, I when I was working freelance with the state newspaper, I went to the children's hospital to cover Santa Claus, and that was just something that really sticks with me. Seeing Santa Claus hoisted up on a crane, a fire ladder, excuse me, and fist bumping a child through the window. Those are moments in time that will stick with me for the rest of my life. You know, it's a beautiful scene. You know, our city is beautiful, full of beautiful things and beautiful people, but we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do, and I think as long as the beauty is there, that will make us want more beauty, which will also propel us for more lasting and positive change.
All right. Crush, or let's see, Marion Crush Rush, 2020 Richland Library Fall Artist in Residence. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me, Leland. It's always a pleasure. Hope to see you soon, brother.
We'll be right back here on Awareness.